Hello and welcome to Vinny's Educare. Today I'm going to present an audio recording of the lesson Tom Has a Toothache. This is an extract taken from Mark Twain's The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. This has been included in the ICSE Class 6 English Literature textbook. A young boy experiences Monday blues and tries to invent a reason to skip school. Monday morning found Tom Sawyer miserable. Monday morning always found him so because it began another week's slow suffering in school. He generally began that day with wishing he had had no intervening holiday. It made the going into captivity and fetters again so much more odious. Tom lay thinking. Presently it occurred to him that he wished he was sick. Then he could stay home from school. Here was a vague possibility. He canvassed his system. No ailment was found, and he investigated again. This time he thought he could detect colicky symptoms, and he began to encourage them with considerable hope. But they soon grew feeble and presently died wholly away. He reflected further. Suddenly he discovered something. One of his upper front teeth was loose. This was lucky. He was about to begin to groan as a starter, as he called it, when it occurred to him that if he came into court with that argument, his aunt would pull it out and that would hurt. So he thought he would hold the tooth in reserve for the present and seek further. Nothing offered for some little time, and then he remembered hearing the doctor tell about a certain thing that laid up a patient for 2 or 3 weeks and threatened to make him lose a finger. So the boy eagerly drew his sore toe from under the sheet and held it up for inspection. But now he did not know the necessary symptoms. However, it seemed well worthwhile to chance it, so he fell to groaning with considerable spirit. But Sid slept on unconscious. Tom groaned louder and fancied that he began to feel pain in the toe. No result from Sid. Tom was panting with his exertions by this time. He took a rest and then swelled himself up and fetched a succession of admirable groans. Sid snored on. Tom was aggravated. He said, "Sid, Sid," and shook him. This course worked well, and Tom began to groan again. Sid yawned, stretched, then brought himself up on his elbow with a snort and began to stare at Tom. Tom went on groaning. Sid said, "Tom, say Tom." There was no response from Tom. "Here, Tom, Tom, what is the matter, Tom?" And he shook him and looked in his face anxiously. Tom moaned out, "Oh, don't sit, don't joggle me." "Why, what's the matter, Tom? I must call Auntie." "No, never mind. It will be over soon, maybe. Don't call anybody." "But I must. Don't groan so. Tom, it's awful. How long you been this way?" "Hours." "Ouch. Oh, don't stir so, Sid. You will kill me." "Tom, why didn't you wake me sooner?" "Oh, Tom, don't. It makes me frightened to hear you." "Tom, what is the matter?" "I forgive you for everything, Sid. Everything you have ever done to me when I'm gone." "Oh, Tom, you ain't dying, are you?" "I forgive everybody, Sid. Tell them so, Sid. And Sid, you give my window sash and my cat with one eye to that new girl that's come to town and tell her." But Sid had snatched his clothes and gone. Tom was suffering in reality now, so handsomely was his imagination working, and so his groans had gathered quite a genuine tone. Sid flew downstairs and said, "Oh, Aunt Polly, come, Tom is dying." "Dying?" "Yes. Don't wait. Come quick." "Rubbish. I don't believe it." But she fled upstairs nevertheless, with Sid in her heels, and her face grew white too, and her lips trembled. When she reached the bedside, she gasped, "You, Tom, Tom, what's the matter with you?" "Oh, Auntie, I am—" "What's the matter with you? What is the matter with you, child?" "Oh, Auntie, my toe is mortified." The lady sank down into a chair and laughed a little, then cried a little, then did both together. This restored her, and she said, "Tom, what a turn you did give me! Now you shut up that nonsense and climb out of this." The groans ceased and the pain vanished from the toe. The boy felt a little foolish, and he said, "Aunt Polly, it seemed mortified and it hurt so I never minded my tooth at all." "Your tooth indeed? What's the matter with your tooth?" "One of them is loose and it aches perfectly awful." There now, don't begin that groaning again. Open your mouth. Well, your tooth is loose, but you are not going to die with that." Saying this, Auntie was about to get a silk thread and a chunk of fire out of the kitchen when Tom cried out, "Oh, please, Auntie, don't pull it out. It doesn't hurt any more. I wish I may never stir if it does. Please don't, Auntie. I don't want to stay home from school." "Oh, you don't you? So all this row was because you thought you would get to stay home from school and go fishing? Tom, Tom, I love you so, and you seem to try every way you can to break my old heart with your outrageousness. Now that tooth will come out on its own. Go to sleep now, and we will decide what to do when you wake up." Here ends the story from the lesson Tom Had a Toothache. You can use this audio clip in order to improve your reading skill. Thank you, children.